Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good week. It's been a better week. It's a little bit windy still, so I apologise if you hear any wind, because where I live, it is super windy and it's hitting the house and it's kind of a little bit rocky, I think I can say. But yeah, well, who am I joined by this week? Well, I'm joined by our resident co-host, Ipswich Town fan that is looking much more happier. I can see his smile is beaming. It is Dan. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yes, a bit more positive now, isn't it? Finally, we've been waiting for ages and happy about football again.
Yeah. Well, as you say that, the sun has just come out, so it must be happier. Must be happier. Yeah. Well, I better mention the social medias before we move on. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows. But also we do some additional content on YouTube. Yes, we upload all our match previews for the Premier League, Champions League and Ipswich Town games. And also we do some additional content if there's any breaking news. Yes, keep an eye on that. If there's any breaking news, they'll be up on that channel. Well, what have we got coming up in today's show? We're going to be talking about Ipswich Town. We had another double bill of games. Gillingham and Lincoln, thick and fast. Paul Cook's first two games as his town manager, one away and his first one at home. The Premier League, it's getting quite tense down the bottom of the Premier League. But also, a side lost their first game of 2021. Yes, everybody's now lost the game in 2021. And also we're going to do a roundup of the Champions League because we now know the first full teams that are going to be in the quarterfinals for this year's competition. And we have got some big shocks in there for you. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town and Paul Cook's first two games as the new boss. Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now before we move on with the show and talk about Ipswich Town, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows or any other content, yes, we do match previews. They all go up there. Early access for they go up on the Twitter for every Ipswich Town Premier League and Champions League game this season. Now, Ipswich Town were back in action for two more games in 4 days. Paul Cook took his first game in charge of Ipswich Town, his first two actually, his first one away and his first one at home. And well, unfortunately, life under him didn't start too well for him as Gillingham made Ipswich Town look second best as they won 3-1. Dan, not the start he was looking for on Saturday. It was sort of a hype start where you sort of, it was a little bit of a nervous start. We didn't know how he was going to play. We was excited as well, but not the start he would have wanted, really.
No, not at all. He started with the same squad that beat Accrington. That he saw on that Tuesday night, and that wasn't a surprise. But from the start, we looked really poor. Gillingham were better than us pretty much everywhere on the pitch. It was just a really poor game and not a good start for Paul Cook. And I think it showed that there's a lot of work to do. I think that's what it did. That performance, because it wasn't pretty to watch at all. We managed to get a goal back, but mistakes cost us again. It's silly mistakes every time, isn't it? But yeah, as I said, I think that gave a lot of thinking for Paul Cook, what he wants to do with this squad and if it's good enough for the playoffs. So
yeah, not the start. I think there was one change from that side. I think Josh Harrop came in.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
Alan Judge was out due to a family bereavement. We hope he'll be back soon. He was back for the Lincoln game, wasn't he? He was on the bench. He came on actually.
Yeah,
didn't
he did. Yeah.
It's been too long. It's been too windy. I've lost my mind. Can't remember what's happening. But Ipswich Town, they played again. This time it was at home. Paul Cook's first home game as Ipswich Town boss. Unfortunately, no fans in, which I think was kind of sad because I think he would have easily got 20,000, 25 maybe on the weekend for that game. But unfortunately, nobody was there. But we actually don't know what the iFollow numbers are yet, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't actually know that.
Be interesting.
Yet. That'd be very interesting. See if they can beat the get over the 6,000 mark, which they needed for the Gilliam game. But moving back to the game, he got his first points under as Ipswich Town manager thanks to James Wilson's goal that rescued it for Town versus Lincoln. I think we can say overall a better performance than Saturday. He said it was a better performance, and he said it was a fair result at the point. Do you agree with that? It was a fair result?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it was definitely a fair result. Yeah, we were much better than Saturday. Obviously, Gillingham was so poor, so we needed to come into this game against Lincoln, who are a good side themselves. So we needed to put in a performance. It wasn't the best I've seen us play, I have to admit, but it was definitely better. And I think a draw was a fair result. We started off quite quickly. It actually looked like we were trying to attack, mostly down the right-hand side of Edwards in the first 10 minutes, but then we kind of sat off, didn't we? I think Lincoln came into the game and they looked so dangerous on the break. And I think I could tell that they were a good team straight away. They attacked with pace. Their players knew what they were doing, so they're a good side. And then they scored a really good goal. A lot of people were complaining about Holy there, but after looking at that, he didn't dive, but I still don't think he would have got to it. It was pinpoint accuracy from Rogers, wasn't it? I don't think he would have got to it. But yeah, we didn't really look in it after that. Really, we didn't have too much chances in the first half, but the second half, I thought we played all right. Still not really enough attacking threat for me. I think that's the biggest worry we have at the moment because the defence, I think Wilson and Toto had a really good game again. I don't know what's happened to them. They kind of come back into the squad and been performing really well. I think Toto had a fantastic game. Obviously, Wilson, he scored that goal. He's scoring goals as well as doing well in defensive areas. So that's really good to see. And another set piece goal, which is a bit mental. But, we went so long without being able to score a clean sheet goal, and now we've scored 6 in a row, which is mad. But yeah, I think we were good enough to get the draw, and I think that's a fair result. I think maybe in the last 10, 15 minutes, we could have gone on to win it because Lincoln were sitting back quite a bit. But again, we just don't have that attacking threat, which is the biggest worry. But yeah, draw a fair result, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I could totally agree with you. Everything you said. That maybe the Holy thing, I think he maybe could have saved it, but we will never know, unfortunately. I think because he was very rooted a little bit, which sort of raised questions, and his height as well. But we'll never know. But it was a superb goal.
Yeah, it was.
I couldn't hit that any better if I tried. But as you mentioned there, attacking threat hasn't really been there at the moment from Ipswich Town, but their last 6 goals have come from set pieces. Another Dazelle dead ball delivery. He's very good at them. He's come alive a little bit on those dead balls. I know fans are not happy with him playing, but he adds that little bit of quality when we need it. Chambers, you found Chambers, he headed it in, and then Wilson got enough power to head it into the back of the net. Town, they are struggling from open play. I think Paul Cook has highlighted that. I think he highlighted that when he first came in. He said, we're struggling from open play, but set pieces they have been strong from. And Wilson, 2 goals now from his last 2 games, a 44-game wait before his first. He's now got 2 and 2. That's pretty good for him. But his contract's up in the summer. A contract extension must be on the table for him. They must be offering that to him because at the moment, he's saving Ipswich Town at the back, with Toto and Ciarlo. Those two have looked pretty rock solid. Toto made up for his mistakes that he did in that game. But in attack as well, he's rescuing Ipswich Town some points here.
Yeah, he is. I think, as you said, the contract's up in the summer. And I think these past performances, he definitely deserves a contract. we've been saying since Cook came in that these players are playing for their future at the club, and we know that there's going to be a lot of changes in the summer, whether we go up or not. It's more than likely going to be not, but it's still possible. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes, and I think Wilson's definitely done enough to get that contract, and I think we need him. Wilson's a player that he doesn't do the silly things, does he? He does the simple things well. And that's what we need in this league. League One is not a place for trickery and all this. We just need a solid team that can score goals. And I think with centre backs like Wilson and Nsiala that are not like that, I think they deserve contracts. I don't know if Nsiala's is up. I don't think it's next year, but yeah, I think Wilson should get that contract, and good for him as well to get those goals. That'll do his confidence a hella good as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who we keep and who goes in the summer. As I said, I reckon it'll be wholesale changes. Players. I think Edwards is out of contract.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, a lot of other players as well. So it will be interesting. Going back to Dazelle, as you said, his set pieces have been really good. I think that's probably something that he's been trying to do in the training ground, hasn't he? Because until a few games ago, his set pieces weren't great. We didn't really have the greatest set piece takers. I think Judge was probably our best, where he scored that free kick against Doncaster, didn't he? But yeah, I think Dazelle's improved in that area. Still think he needs a rest. I still don't think he's been good enough this season. He's a good player, and it's frustrating to me because I know that he can be a great player, but he just doesn't show it. I think he's a player that needs to just do the simple stuff. He needs to pick a pass. Every single time he tries to pick, a worldie of a pass, and it's not always on, but he can do that. So yeah, I just think he needs a bit of a break. Maybe I guess Nolan's injured, but there's not really anyone else to play there, is there? I guess Hughes could come in, but he's had a really poor season. I don't want him to come in. I said this to my mates. I think this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think if Cole Scouse is fit, he could come in and do a job in that midfield. I don't think Ipswich fans will agree with me on that, but I think that's a shout in that position.
That is a unpopular. You know what? Thinking about it,
yeah,
that could work. I think the initial reaction, I would go, "What?" But maybe thinking about it for a good 5 minutes, and I'd go, "Maybe we'll
I think
maybe it could work."
When you think about it, Cole Scoots gets a lot of stick from our fans. I don't understand why. He's always puts in solid games. He's defensive, but we have players around him that can attack as well. I guess playing him and Downs probably not the best thing to. Actually, they played pretty well together last season. But yeah, I think Cole Scoots gets a lot of bad rap for no real reason, because he always puts in solid performances. I think just people have got it into their head that he just passes it back and is a very negative player. But yeah, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think he'd do a job there.
Yeah, maybe. Or when he's fit, when we'll have to find out. John Nolan could possibly do a job in there. But when he is fit, we'll have to wait and see. Just to update on that Toto thing, his contract actually is up this summer.
It is.
It's up this summer. I've just had a quick little check. Well, a 1-1 draw. It's now taken Ipswich Town only 1 point off the playoffs after Portsmouth lost 2-0 to promotion rival Sunderland, and Acton Stanley lost as well. I think they lost 4-1 to Bristol Rovers. But Charlton and Oxford, they both won their games. They're now 1 point and 2 points off, respectively, of the playoffs. Dan, Paul Cook was very honest in his post-match interviews. The fans really agreed with his comments, I think, about sort of how it's just played. He said that we played well in a weird sort of way. It was a small step in the right direction. But is this a side that's in transition here? It's a work in improvement side, because he doesn't know his best lineup yet. he's only had, I think we can say, 3 or 2 full days on that training ground. He hasn't been able to really implement any sort of styles, like how he wants to play. I think he's sort of the main little thing. He's trying to get them to play more aggressively, more pressure, more liveliness, which we saw. We saw that in the first 10 minutes of the game, and that slowly faded off. And then Ipswich went back into their sort of shells and very defensive and controlling possession like they were under the previous management. I think we can say very try to control the game. But is it slowly a right step in the right direction? But there needs to be what he's working at the moment. He only can make small steps where if he had possibly a week on the training ground, we could see this big step that is needed at the moment.
Yeah, he said that himself. The guys have asked him in the interviews. They've said, what can you do to implement your own style and stuff? And he said pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to come in and change it too much because he knows that will have an effect on the players. And I think that's what happened mainly with Hurst. He changed pretty much everything in the club, and our players didn't like it. And to an extent, I think Lambert did that as well. He came in. He last season he kept changing. 7 changes every single game. So it's good to hear that Paul Cook doesn't want to come in and change everything. And yeah, I think small steps are what's needed. I think in the Lincoln game we kind of got a little glimpse of what he's trying to do. He's trying to. I think he wants us to keep possession, but he doesn't want us to keep possession like we did under the previous management, where we just passed it around and didn't really do anything. There was a bit of that in the game against Lincoln, but I think he wants us to play more progressive possession football, if you get what I mean.
Yes. Go forward.
Go forward with the ball. It's not always great because our attacking third. This isn't Paul Cook's fault. It's just our attacking threat is pretty much nothing. I've seen people complaining about the tactics about Cook already. He's had 2 games, not even 2 weeks yet. So let's just calm down, everyone. You can't really blame him at all for anything, can you? At the moment, I think I said in the tweet, he gets a free pass this year because he's come in March. 15 games to go. I think it's 14 now, but there was 15 games to go. It's not going to be. He's not a miracle worker, is he? He's not going to change everything for the better immediately. It just doesn't work like that. So I think we just need to give him time. Small steps are what's needed. And we'll see where we are in a few games' time to see whether he's trying to implement his style of football. But I think we just need to accept that this is how we're going to play at the moment, and that it's going to be a waiting game, isn't it? I think he needs the summer to really implement what he wants to do.
Well, you have to think really that Town have actually improved under him, because they're now only 1 point off the playoffs. I think when he came in, it was 3 or 2. So he's got them going in the right direction. Some sorts of 1 point off the playoffs, but it's working very slowly. And I think he's building confidence around the players. But we have to say he doesn't know anything, and he's sort of using another man's tools. I think we can say, if we're going to use that sort of old catchphrase.
Yeah, he is. This is Lambert's side, isn't it? This is who he was playing. So he's got to come in and use what he's got. I think the interviews that Cook does, I think they're really good. Under the previous, I think I've said his name, haven't I?
Yeah, you have.
Anyway, okay, I'm going to try and stop saying his name.
That's another
under the
pound
previous
of the jar.
Under the previous management, we knew that he'd just go into an interview and lie, just keep lying. But with Paul Cook, he seems like he's got a good sense of humour. I think under Lambert, it was under the previous management, it was he just looked grumpy all the time, didn't he? There was no enthusiasm, and I think that showed with the players as well and the fans. Actually, that's what it was like all through the club. But I think it's a breath of fresh air to see a manager come in who seems enthusiastic when he speaks. and actually, it's honest when he speaks to the interviewer. So yeah, I'm really pleased to see that that's kind of his personality. And I think, I think his man management is good as well. We've seen it at other clubs, and I think our players respect Paul Cook as a manager. So I really hope it works, because I think he's definitely the right man for the job. I think Evans picked the right man for once. I hope so anyway. But yeah, it's going to take time. He's got us 1 point off the playoffs. Portsmouth are on a really poor run at the moment. And when you look at our fixtures, it's only really Pompey and Charlton around us that we've got to play. So playoffs are on. I really do believe that.
Oh. So I was trying not to crack up when you said his name, because I was just thinking I could add another pound to the pot.
I can't believe I said his name after I just said I'm not going to try and say his name.
It's like a swear jar. That's what it is. We're gonna, every time we say his name, I'm gonna virtually add another pound to the pot.
I can't help it.
It's fine, but yeah, totally agree with everything that you said. But Ipswich Town, they are back at home, looking to build on their draw and jump into the playoff places, as Pompey are playing in the EFL Trophy tomorrow versus Salford City, if I'm correct, at Wembley. But Plymouth, they are in town, and well, they have suffered 3 losses in a row, 4 in the last 5, but in that one they won. It was a 4-3 versus Lincoln. Paul Cook has been speaking. He said, this is a tough game on Saturday. He has been speaking, looking forward. He knows that they have lost to Wigan last time out, but they're going to probably stick to their style of play. But Dan, can it just build on this draw here? They've got, I think, the first game was a loss. This is a draw, so this must mean it's going to be a win in his third game lucky, I think we could say. But for Plymouth, they want to end this miserable run they're on, because they were, at one point, they were looking to get into the playoffs, and they are doing well. They are a newly promoted side here.
Yeah, they are. A tough team to play against us. I think we beat them last time out, but only because of a red card. So they're a tough team to play against. I still do think it's winnable, though. I think we need to start winning games if we want to get in the playoffs, and I think this is a good way to start doing that. Plymouth are on a bad run at the moment. We've just beaten a team who, I think they're third in the league, aren't they, Lincoln? So I think the players will be confident going into it, and I think Paul Cook will get the most out of them. I don't expect an amazing performance. I think, as always, I think it'll probably be quite a scrappy game. I think it would be a typical League One game, but I just think we'll have enough to get away with a win. And I'm going to go for a 1-0 to Town, and I'll take that, because hopefully that'll. Well, if we win, we'll go in the playoffs, won't we? So yeah, it's going to be a big game. We need to win this game. We really do. And I think if we win this, you never know what could happen. We could go on a run after that, because, as I said before, looking at the fixtures, there's winnable games everywhere. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-0 to Town. Well,
and Dan is going for a 1-0 to Ipswich Town tomorrow for tomorrow's game versus Plymouth. What do you think? Let us know at Pitch I Talk what your score predictions are for Ipswich Town versus Plymouth. Will Ipswich Town get their first win under Paul Cook? Will he get them back into the playoffs? Would it be third time lucky? And all this, whatever other conspiracy theories are about. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Premier League. Yeah, this is more games coming up thick and fast. This week we've seen 2 bitter rivals go up against each other, one of them losing their winning streak this year, and the battle for survival. It's getting close and intense. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now, before we move on and talking about the Premier League this week, if you want to follow us on our social medias, please do. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of the previous shows or this one, if you missed anything from this show, Dan talking about Ipswich Town, the first 2 games under the Paul Cook, I'm not going to say era. I can't think of a different word. Management. I don't want to say era because it's not a new era, because we had that.
Well, we'd have to call it the new era.
Yeah, the new era under a Paul. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be up at 6 p.m. Straight after the show. So stay tuned for that. Now the Premier League this week. Well, we've had more games come at us thick and fast, and I have a result somewhere. Just give me 2 seconds. I forgot, and I've written down the results, and I haven't got my book near me to read out the results. That's
Very
really
professional.
super professional. You can see me. If you saw the camera there, you can see me looking around the room trying to find this book, and I've just found it. So it's all good at the end of the day.
Good.
So here are the results. So it finished 1-1 between Burnley and Arsenal. Southampton got their first win since January after beating Sheffield United 2-0. Aston Villa drew 0-0 with Wolves, and Brighton lost 2-1 to Leicester. And in the games for Sunday, so Newcastle drew 0-0 with West Brom. Liverpool, they continued their losing streak at home to a 1-0 loss to Fulham. Manchester United won the Manchester Derby 2-0 over Manchester City. Tottenham won 4-1 over Crystal Palace. Chelsea won 2-0 over Everton. West Ham won 2-0 over Leeds. And Manchester City beat Southampton 5-2. But Dan, I want to start off with this relegation battle. It is getting very close and very intense down there. I think we could have said a few months ago, the bottom three was pretty set between Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United. I think would easily say that. But then a few weeks later, we could have said, well, maybe Fulham could get out there, causing a little upset because Newcastle's poor run of form, 9 points from the last 14 games and 9 defeats in that time. But since Brighton have beaten Liverpool, they've only had 2 points from the last 6. And now Fulham are unbeaten in the last 7 of Premier League away games. Only one loss in the last 10 has now seen a very tight relegation battle, which is only splitted by 1 point. So Fulham are 18th on 26. Brighton are just ahead of them by 3 goal difference on 26 points and 17. And Newcastle are ahead of both of those sides on 27 points. But the drama for these sides just continues, and this is now really important for these 3 sides here because they need to keep winning. And for Newcastle and Brighton, they need to not make sure they don't slip into this relegation battle here.
Exactly. What a change, what a turnaround it was from Fulham. They looked down and out, didn't they? I think you said the bottom 3. It was just what everyone thought it was going to be. I think we all even predicted that at the start of the season, didn't we? Maybe not Sheffield United, but the other 2, Fulham and West Brom, I think that's who we predicted. So for Fulham to be so far out and then turn it around like that, what a second half of the season they're having. As for Brighton, as you said, they beat Liverpool, but after that, their form has just been so poor. And they're not scoring goals, are they? We saw in the West Brom game, there's so many chances for them to score. I think the game before as well, I can't remember who they played against, but they've had so many chances to just get a goal and maybe get a point or even 3 points to help them, but they just can't get that ball in the net. Missing 2 penalties, and maybe West Brom had help from VAR in that game. But it's still not good enough, is it? And Brighton looking real danger now, I think. Same as Newcastle as well. It's really tight down there. So Newcastle really need to start picking up more wins. I think with that squad, they shouldn't be where they are, I don't think. The size of the club as well. We always talk about how a club like that shouldn't be in the Championship, and that's right. So they need to start picking up wins quickly. I think they've got Brighton coming up as well soon, maybe next weekend, I think. So yeah, so that's going to be a big relegation 6-pointer down there. If they can get anything from that game, that would definitely help them. So yeah, they don't want to be dragged into the bottom 3 because it's hard to get out of, isn't it? But Fulham, they're on a roll. Can they stay up?
Cool.
I think they can. I think if they keep this form going and the way they're playing, I think they can. And that's Scott Parker doing a fantastic job there.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you a very tough question here. Out of those three sides, pick two of them that are going to survive this season.
I'd say Fulham and I'd say Fulham and Newcastle.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I still think Newcastle have enough to stay up, even though it's tight. I just think watching Brighton, they're just poor. It's the goal scoring that worries me with Brighton. I guess they did score against Leicester, but they still just I'm just going to say Brighton because they just don't have enough firepower for me to get out of this. But you never know. My predictions always seem to be massively wrong, so they'll probably go on a mad run now, and it will be like Southampton that get relegated. But no, I'd say the bottom three are going to be Brighton, West Brom, and Sheffield United, and Fulham and Newcastle stay up.
Cool. Mad predictions. I bet you somebody's probably predicting West Brom now to survive at this rate.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Next Saturday, Brighton do play Newcastle in a big 6-pointer, so we'll keep you up to date with that. Well, now moving on to the biggest winners this week. It is Manchester United. I think it's the first time ever I've put them in this pot. But they got a win over their bitter rivals, ending their 20-game unbeaten run. We will get into that a little bit more later on. But recent performances for Manchester United have been very poor. 3 goalless draws, seeing quite a lot of frustration growing in the club and over Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is he the man and all this palaver about him? But Sunday, the Sunday derby was probably the best we've seen of Manchester United. A great win for them. But it shows us that Manchester United can do it, but that lack of consistency this season has cost them a real chance at the title here because it's the first time they've been in the top 6 side this whole season. They've had pointless draws and pointless losses. If they didn't have that, we could be saying Manchester United here could be leading the Premier League.
Yeah, consistency is a massive thing in football, isn't it? You need to, if you're going to win that title, you need to be consistent like Man City have been. So, yeah, it's just games that they should have won. They should have got points in. A lot of the draws recently have been 2 points dropped because Man City have been on a mad run. So, yeah, they've just been way too inconsistent, and that's not going to get you a title. I think it's been, by their standards, I think it's been a good, maybe I wouldn't say good season. Well, I mean they're second in the league, so it's been pretty good. They had a really good start. We're top of the league for quite a while, weren't they? So
yeah,
it looks like they are going to get Champions League football, which I think they'll be happy with again for another season. But seeing as Man City are quite far ahead of them, it doesn't look like they're going to catch up at all. It's going to be a massive task to do that. I think they have got a decent run of games, Man United. I think they haven't got too many hard games coming up towards the end of the season. But they're not going to catch Man City. So yeah, it's just been that inconsistency that's been the main thing, because I think Man United have been, there's been some good games for them this season. They've been performing pretty well. And this game against Man City, they show, as you said, they show that they have enough. They show that they have that quality. So, I think their fans are just going to be disappointed by the fact that it could have been a chance this year to do some great things, but they're just going to fall back behind Man City because of that inconsistency.
Yeah, we'll have to sort of wait and see about it. Yeah, well, they did get knocked out of the Champions League. We have to remember here in the group stages.
Yeah.
They're now in the Europa League, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But we're now going to move on to the biggest losers of the week, and Manchester City. Their run of 28 games unbeaten has gone. Unbeaten in 2021, that has gone. They lost to their bitter rivals. They put that to an end. They look very second best in the Manchester derby, but they did take their pain out on Southampton, beating those 5-2. But I've still put them in losers pot because they did lose to their bitter rivals, and that winning streak is gone. But I know it doesn't sound bad, but could that be a good thing for them? Because that sort of just shows that they're not invincible, and that could possibly start them to go on a better run, possibly.
Possibly, yeah. I think that's kind of how it works, isn't it? I think there's so much good things from Man City this season. They went so long unbeaten, and they just need to be brought down to earth a little bit. Because, as you said, they're not invincible, and they were poor against Man United, which was really surprising, actually. I think we all thought that Man City were going to go into that game beating them their usual selves and go on and win it, but pretty poor. And maybe it's just the occasion, knowing that there's no fans there, everyone's watching from home, and they, the Man City fans demanding a win against Manchester United. Maybe they've just crumbled a bit under the pressure. But yeah, I think this loss it'll put some fight in them again, because they were kind of cruising. And I don't think that anyone's going to catch them. It's too far a gap, isn't it? And the fact that they beat Southampton, they thrashed Southampton. All the Southampton fans were dreading this game. So yeah, I think this was just a blip. I'd say it's just a blip. And we'll see how they're doing the next games, and if they, I think they'll keep winning, because their squad's too good at the moment. And I think this is just a game that they'll lose, and then they'll go on another run again, because that's what Man City are like, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I think they're 14 points clear, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's pretty much impossible for anyone to catch them in it.
Yeah, it's pretty mad. I can't remember how many games they have to now win. It's gone blank, but I think they have to win like the next 5 or 6 to possibly be champions. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that, because I can't actually remember what the number was. But moving on to another biggest loser this week is Liverpool. Another game, another home defeat. That's now 6 consecutive home defeats. That's now the most in their entire history, the 129-year history. They never lost 6 consecutive games at home. But then 12 months ago, Liverpool were 25 points clear at the Premier League after a win over Bournemouth. But now at this stage of the season, they're 36 points worse off than they were last year. In the last 3 seasons, they suffered 9 defeats. This season, they've suffered 9 defeats already. It's mad how 12 months ago, everything looked so bright and happy for them, but it's all now miserable for Liverpool. And top 4, with the team starting to put away and teams like Chelsea starting to win, it's going to be quite hard to get back into that fight.
It is, yeah. And I really don't know what's happened with Liverpool. It's mad how much it's changed. And, some people are saying injuries have been an effect, but even with Van Dijk out and other players out, it's mainly Van Dijk, isn't it? But even with players like that out, Liverpool have a good enough squad, I think. So maybe injuries do affect it, but that can't be the excuse every time. Would have Liverpool have gone on this, losing streak at home with fans in the stadium? I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing, because we know how much of an effect the fans at Anfield have on the Liverpool side. So I think that could maybe have changed something. But I just think with Liverpool, it's a team that if they lose one or two on the bounce, I think the confidence goes, and I think that's the main thing. It's confidence issues. It's thinking, we need to win this because we've gone so long without winning at home, and then it's just the pressure of that. It just keeps, building and building, doesn't it? The pressure on the players and Klopp is just building and building. So I think it's confidence is the main thing. But yeah, as you said, teams above them are pushing away now, so they really need to start picking up points. It's going to be really tough to get into the top 4, I think, for them. Even though the squad is still really good, they still have enough to pull it out the bag. But yeah, it's going to be really tough to get into that top 4 now, I think.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Well, that's everything from the Premier League this week. There'll be some more matches coming up. There's actually a game happening in a few hours between Aston Villa versus Newcastle. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But when we come back, we can talk about the Champions League. We do a quick roundup as we found out the first 4 teams that are through to the quarterfinals.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitch and Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now, before we talk about the Champions League and find out the first 4 teams that have gone through to the quarterfinals, and he said something completely different there, the quarterfinals, not the quarterfinals. Follow us on our social medias. Twitter at Pitch I Talk, Instagram Talk _Pitch, YouTube, Mixcloud, both at Pitch I Talk. If you listen back to any of our previous shows or even this one, this will be up at 6 p.m. on Friday, straight after the show's done. If you want to listen back to Dan talk about Ipswich Town and the Premier League, because we've got, some interesting battles happening in the Premier League. That'll be up for you at 6 p.m. on Friday. Now, the Champions League, it's been away for a few weeks, but it was back for the second leg of the knockout stages with goals and some big teams being stunned. And starting off with a big team, Porto, they ended Ronaldo's and Juventus' dream of Champions League glory this year. The wait will continue for both of those club and players. As Sergio Oviedo, I'm losing it, Dan. Sergio Oviedo's 115-minute goal shot Juventus and sent Porto through on away goals. And it was actually on that day, 17 years ago, Costella's last-minute free kick at Old Trafford sent them through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League in that year, in the 2004 year. And we had the infamous Jose Mourinho running down the touchline, knee slide across the Manchester United fans, the Portos. And they won it that year. So maybe the stars aligned. We just don't know just yet. In the other game on that night, we had Borussia Dortmund versus Seville, and Borussia Dortmund squeezed through to the quarterfinals thanks to Haaland's goals, as Seville fought back to make it 2-2 on the night, but it finished 5-4 on aggregate. But this game was absolute chaos, as in 7 minutes we had Haaland scored, but then the goal was disallowed. But then VAR gave a penalty for a previous foul on Haaland. Haaland then missed the penalty, but then VAR redemanded that the penalty was retaken again because the goalkeeper was off his line. Haaland scored, but then taunted the goalkeeper and was booked for a celebration. So an absolutely crazy 7 minutes there, but Borussia Dortmund did finally get through. And then moving on to Liverpool, the only team that are playing this week from England, and they got through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League after a 2-0 victory over RB Leipzig. Jurgen Klopp praised his side and praised Fabinho especially, as he said he's one of the best in the world at number 6. His first time he's been back in midfield since October. So winning in the Champions League, surely that should help him out in the Premier League. We'll have to wait and see, because the last time he won the Champions League, it didn't really help him in the Premier League, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And also Barcelona and Lionel Messi, they are out of this year's Champions League after a spirited performance versus PSG, getting a 1-1 draw, but they couldn't overturn the 4-1 aggregate lead that PSG already had. This is the first time since the 04/05 season that Messi and Ronaldo haven't been in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and the first time in 14 years that Barcelona haven't made the last say. And it looks like it could be a messy end and a disappointing end for Lionel Messi time at Barcelona in the Champions League, because, he wants out. But we'll have to wait and see what happens soon. So that is everything for your Champions League roundup. And next week we'll have the other matches for you as Chelsea and Man City play, Real Madrid versus Atalanta, and Bayern Munich versus Lazio. And there's another team that I can't think off the top of my head, and it's gone blank. I'm gonna have to look it up because it's actually gone blank. It's gone blank. Who is it? I know. No, I've mentioned all of them. It's gone blank. I thought it was another game. Dan, I'm slowly losing it. I think it's time for the referee to give us a little bit of extra time to go into a football roundup.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan. As always, now we've been given just a little bit of extra time here to talk about a football roundup. Hooray! We don't usually get to this very often. We don't usually get much extra time, but we've got a little bit. And, I'm going to start off this week, and I'm going to mention about Rangers. They won the Scottish League title, their 55th title in their club history. Gerrard getting them the title back after 10 years ago. They were back in the bottom tier of Scottish football because of administration problems, but they've overturned Celtic's dominance and they have won. And he has said there is more to come. So we'll be interested to see what happens with Rangers, as they are still in the Europa League, and Celtic look a bit of a shambles at the moment. So could possibly see some more titles from Rangers. But Dan, what have you got for us in Football Roundup today?
Yeah, so I've got some Ipswich Town related news this week. So Idris El Mazouni, he went out on loan to Grimsby in the January transfer window. Paul Hurst's Grimsby, actually. Yeah, so they were bottom of the league at the time, but unfortunately, he's got an injury. He's going to be out for quite a while. So that happened at Cambridge as well, and it's happened again at Grimsby. So really tough for him. I hope he has a speedy recovery, because he's a good player. El Mazouni is. So yeah, hope he gets better and is in the Ipswich squad in the future. Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. Wish him a very speedy recovery. And that is everything for today for Football Roundup. Dan, I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. We'll be joining next week, where we'll be probably talking about the same things actually again, because Champions League back, Ipswich are playing twice. The Premier League's still going. So yeah, will you be joining?
I'll be here as always.
He's always here on Pitchside Talk. Well, before we go, I've been mentioning the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of the pre show, see any additional content, or even if you missed anything from the show, don't worry, it'll be up in a few minutes, 6 p.m. on Fridays. Well, I've been George. He's been Dan. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
Yeah.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.